Hi everyone, welcome back to the Brad and Kyle channel, and today, this video, we're going to be talking and teaching you guys how to bowl on longer oil patterns. Stay tuned. All right, so another video on oil patterns, and we've done them on all sorts of occasions, but this one today, long oil patterns. What we consider a long oil pattern is anywhere 42, 43 and above, right? We've bowled up to 52.
Yeah, we bowled on like some patterns that start with a 5. That's for sure.
Yeah, and the length of the lane is 60. Anything less than 40 is considered shorter, and then you get up in the high 40s. That's long. And when we see a long oil pattern, the ball is going and meant to slide a lot. Now that requires a completely different thought process when we're talking compared to a house shot or a shorter oil pattern.
Yeah, absolutely. Generally, when we're talking long oil patterns, there's so much oil in the lane that we can't really give the pocket away a ton. So depending on how long the pattern is, generally the longer the pattern is, if it's around like 46, 47, 48 feet, we got to stay pretty snug to that pocket. We can't be getting our ball out to 5 or 6 or 7 because it'll just never hook. Sometimes when they get around 40, 41, 42, 40, 41 would probably be more of a medium pattern, but we can give it away a little bit. But generally, we're kind of trying to not give the pocket away a ton.
Yeah, and I mean, it always depends, like as we say when we talk about lane patterns, where you're bowling, what the lane surface is, how much of the oil they're applying.
Yeah.
Because you could take a long pattern, put a very little amount of oil out, but it is long, but not a lot, and your ball will hook way too early and make it difficult that way, because then it's early and then really slick down lane.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that can happen on long oil patterns, but right now we have one. What is it, 45?
Yeah,
Mexico
it's around
City?
45 feet-ish.
Okay, and this is a pattern we've bowled on a lot. We bowled on a lot of team trials.
Yep.
It's a popular pattern amongst the USBC. It's one of our favorites because it can play really hard, and then you can hit them sometimes too. So you're gonna throw some shots on a long oil pattern. What do you think you're gonna do, just game plan wise?
Yeah, when we talked about long oil patterns, of course, this is for like I would say a typical long pattern. We've seen long patterns where you can play the gutter and all that stuff. But so don't say, oh, but I played on this 48 feet and there was a gutter. Okay, that happens sometimes. But typically, so something like this, 45 feet, I'm gonna play and practice my first couple of shots in between 10 and 15 and kind of see what my ball is doing. Is it pushing a lot? Does it sharp down lane? What's going on there? Because generally outside of 5 for me is not gonna work no matter what. So on a longer pattern, I typically have to play further left. I'm going to want to play left. So I'm going to start in between 10 and 15 and see what my ball does. Okay. So the idea of playing here is just to not get the ball away right and kind of keep it in front of me.
Yeah, so generally the longer it is, the reason you don't want to get your ball going to the right is the angle's just too steep for how long the oil is. It's too far away from the head pin. It won't make it back. So on long patterns, you typically play the middle part of the lane, whether your feet are farther to the right like his was, and you're playing more up it, or even if you're way left and you're playing a big hook, you're still not going to get the ball way out like you would on a short pattern. You would still kind of keep it snug close to the 1-3 pocket or the head pin.
Yeah, our ball is just simply not going to hook a lot down lane. So if you think about it, it's not going to hook a lot down lane. So we can't give the pocket away. On the long patterns, that 3-pin if you're a right-hander is your friend. And on the opposite, 2-pin if you're a left-hander is your friend. You want to kind of gauge off that pin and not give that pin away a whole lot. Meaning that you want to keep your break point around 10, 12, maybe 8, but somewhere around there. So like that shot in particular, we probably got that one out to, what was it, 8 or 9 maybe?
Maybe.
But you could see how the ball just went up the lane, it held, and then just continued through the pin.
And this is probably pretty basic, but when you're playing on a short pattern and we say you can't miss right, we're bowling on a pattern long enough to where miss right is not good. When miss right's not good, a lot of times miss left's pretty good, but in the circumstance of, okay, we can't miss right, what is something you do with your body that prevents you from missing right, especially on some of these warm-up shots?
Yeah, a lot of times it starts with the setup. So you know, we've trained for this, but a lot of times when I'm setting up, I want to make sure my body is in front of me, meaning that my feet are pretty much angled right in front of me, my shoulders aren't too open, my hips aren't too open, and I'm just trying to keep everything in front of me to start and roll it. I'm also not trying to overhit it a lot. I'm just trying to roll it up the lane.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of us bowl on house patterns that allow you to kind of leak it out to the right. If you're used to that, and then you have something coming up to where you're bowling on a long pattern, pay attention to your hips, just like you said. When you don't have miss right, your body can help you do things. And it helps you keep everything tight when your right hip is kind of just like a little bit more in front of you. Everything's more in front of you. Now, as we move left, we're opening up our angles, but we're still not getting wide open, tossing it out there. We're just kind of creeping left, still keeping our hips fairly closed, using that middle of the lane shim.
Yeah, so that shot, I was looking around 12. I'm gonna move in now just to see what I have here, and I'm gonna try to hit around 16 to 10. And we'll see if what this ball does.
I was actually close to 16 to 10. I was impressed.
I do this for a living, my guy. Come on now. But we could see there that, so it's important to know that since I threw my first shot, great, but I want to see what else is going on in the lane. So we went 16 to 10. Now that ball came up way light. There wasn't quite enough friction there. Maybe after the first game, that ball will start being flush. But I'm kind of thinking, all right, I can maybe play there, but I don't think the lane's quite burnt up enough for that.
Okay, so you like what you did the first shot?
I do. And I might actually try to find a little bit of a middle ground there in particular. So because that one, you could see that we gave it more angle, and we talked about not giving the pocket away a lot. And when I gave it more angle and gave the pocket away, it didn't want to get up there and it wasn't flush.
Yeah, and something interesting about that second shot is it went light. You move left and it went light. That's when we're trying to figure out where to play on a pattern, that's something you want to see. Now, if you were to throw that second shot, you move left and then it didn't get far enough down the lane, it hooked too much and went high. Well, then that makes us think like, well, shoot, if I miss to the right, it's not coming back. Yeah. If I miss to the left now, it hooks too much. That's when we get tight, but that didn't happen. So that's like just knowledge in our head, like, oh, okay, maybe there's some scores out there to be had because we did make that adjustment and we found some shim. Yes. So now, moving along, as this pattern transitions, we know, well, there's shim in the middle a little bit. So as we move left, we know that. We know we don't have to be so tense because there's a little bit of room out there. So just some thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So just for kicks, let's throw a shot outside and see if I'm gonna laugh when this ball just like comes back and hooks. So
I laugh every time Kyle plays outside.
True, it is.
It's a good sight. That's pretty good. This video is making Kyle look pretty good. So, I mean,
haven't thrown a ball in 2 weeks.
Honestly, sometimes we do that. We bowl in a long pattern, we can play right, we can play in the middle, and we can play left.
Yeah, so if you threw all three of those shots, Brad, and obviously on this pattern in particular, there's a little bit of room. Where are you going?
To be honest, I mean, I know that last one looked pretty good to the right, but it's probably a harder line to hit.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that was like a 1 in 20 shot where I'm not gonna throw it that good again.
I mean, you could have a great game doing it. Let's say you have one of your career games playing out to the right, you make every shot great. For one, where are you gonna move from there? I mean, it's still probably a fairly basic move to the middle, but if we start in the middle to where we know we have room, well, that kind of eliminates a few transitions that we have to make if we start out to the right.
It's more of a subtle transition instead of a huge
because you're
move.
already where you are, where you would be going from if you started playing right. So you have a great look, and you're already where you would be if you play to the right, like game 2 or game 3. So it's just much more simple to play in the middle, as long patterns want you to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Generally on the long patterns, we're playing somewhere in the middle of the lane, we're migrating left. And it's important to understand how the lane is playing, what bowling balls, and try to stay on top of that transition because, and we've talked about this in other videos, is that you always got to be aware of what the moves are coming and everything because say you guys are bowling in a tournament against guys like maybe us or other professionals or really good amateurs, you know, if it takes you 3 shots to make a move, get lined up and whatever it is, and it takes us 1, and say we make 3 of those in a 6-game block, you know, 3 good moves. Well, now we're closer on, since it took you 3 and it took us 1, we have 6 more shots. well, we're really closer to throwing a great shot, strike, lining up than someone else. And then when that happens, it's going to be hard to beat that person.
Yes, it is. And you know, we'll talk about the bowling ball a little bit real quick. You're throwing a Trend 2, which is a somewhat strong, cleaner ball. You have a high rev rate. A lot of you guys out there don't have like a professional rev rate. So on longer oil patterns, typically we throw stronger bowling balls.
Right.
Because you just kind of know they're going to hook. We've said it a million times, like, it's impossible to bowl good when your ball's not hooking. So thing number one is make sure your ball's actually hooking if you're bowling on a really slick pattern. We're not, obviously. But if you're bowling on something and you're not getting the ball to hook, strong balls generally roll pretty well on longer oil patterns.
Yeah, strong balls, a little more surface, especially for the lower medium rev
A little more
rates.
surface as well.
Yeah.
Just to get your ball into a roll.
Yeah, you want to see that ball start to pick up, and then we can go down from there. For me, I know that, you know, I have a heavier roll with a little more rev rate, that the stronger balls, a lot of times, unless they're really, really slick, they roll out for me at the beginning, so I can't really use them. So for me, something like a Trend 2, and if you have a higher rev rate, don't be afraid to maybe bump down balls. And like for a Trend 2, for me, if I hit that ball with a little bit of surface, it picks up for me, continues, and does a lot of things good.
Yeah, and that's all you need. I mean, we're all different. If we were bowling against each other right now, I'd probably throw a different ball. So it's all person specific, but the bowling ball matters. You know, definitely. You got to get the right shape. But yeah, long oil patterns, that's it. You know, play close to the head pin, throw some stronger bowling balls, pay attention to your hips, and play in the middle part of the lane, and that should get you going pretty good.
All right, guys, thanks for watching this video. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. And long oil patterns, like Brad said, stronger balls. We're not trying to give that head pin away. A lot of times we're not trying to play those really big angles. We just kind of keep it in front of us and play off that 3-pin, and don't give away the pocket a whole lot. Pick your spares. Good things will happen.
Yep, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.